Hey there, listeners. Thank you so much for tuning back into Number One Leading Ladies. We have one of my partners on the call today. I'm really excited to get to know her story, Karolina demario. And she is super intelligent, so I'm going to not do her justice, I'm sure, trying to explain to you guys what she does and what she knows. So Karolina, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, yeah. So I came to the US from Sweden, actually, when I was 18. I came here to go to college, and I got my degree in business economics. And right after I graduated, I got a job in the telecom industry, and I've been doing business analytics and also digital marketing. And back in 2012, I started investing in rentals to build wealth and cash flow. And then about 1.5 years ago, I got involved in the multifamily space. And I've been doing underwriting for multiple investor groups. And I'm also a mom of 2 wonderful boys.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Yeah, so you definitely have to be patient.
Yes. And a teacher now, too.
Oh, that's right. Because you guys that are listening right now, if you pop this episode up later, we're in the Corona days.
Mm-hmm.
So at home, stay-at-home order. We'll see what happens if that transitions, but for now we have everything digital, so I like it actually. So what we do is we'll have you introduce yourself, and then basically the first question, so ask 3 questions, and we can veer off from these however you want. But when it comes to your own business or what you do for work, there's always a challenge as an entrepreneur, and being someone who is either new as an entrepreneur or in the middle or experienced, or however it works. There's always challenges getting your business up and running. And I think a lot of people think that being an entrepreneur is like, oh, you make a lot of money, you have your own schedule, you can do whatever you want. And it's just not really how it works. So some people, have taken like a HELOC out on their house to start their business, or they go live with mom and dad, or how have you handled some challenges getting your business up and going, and what were those challenges?
Well, I think for me, I did a lot of sacrifices. I did the whole, I think they call it house hacking, where I bought a duplex and I lived in one of the units. I rented the other one out, and it was really small. It was I think under 500 square feet, and me and my 2 boys. So it was really small, but I knew by doing that, I would have an easier time getting into my next property. And so it's just sacrifices. And then I look at people in my age, and they're like they're paying rent. They're paying thousands and thousands of dollars in rent, and they're not investing in real estate. It just makes no sense to me. So
just the sacrifices of not having it's a deferred gratification, I guess, is a
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the exact same thing too. Obviously people like nice things. They like to have nice dinners. They like, some luxury in their life. And, but to me, that's like synonymous with comfort. So while I am young, it's important to me to try to be uncomfortable now so that I can be comfortable later. Right. Is that kind of the same thing?
The same thing. Yeah. And even like, I run and my car is like a 2004-year-old, Ford Explorer. I mean, it's not pretty. It gets its work done, but and people are always like, but why you have the money. You have the money to go get a car. And I'm like, I don't want the car payment. I'd rather just save the money and get into another property or invest in a multifamily. So definitely yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, good for you. And I think everybody out there who's listening, don't be afraid to make those sacrifices. I don't know who said it or whatnot, but I keep hearing over and over from those individuals in the world who have made it really big. They're like, in the beginning, you have to live like nobody else to live like nobody else later. So in reality, like just being really clear on what you want your future to look like, you have to make changes and actions. And now for me, once coronavirus started happening, I've started to do those things personally and say, how can I live below my means? How can I, have things paid off? How can I, you know what I mean? But if you can do that in a thriving market like you have, I think that's amazing. Not necessarily having to have something shock you into it, That's awesome. And that's good to make those changes early. Now, what would you say has been your biggest lesson? And this can be period, like not just business.
Um, I think so. I back in, I think this was 2015. Yeah, I was trying to buy a duplex, and I was gonna live in one and rent the other one out. And I had been waiting and waiting for something to come in my price range, and finally this duplex came on the market. So I rushed, put an offer in, and there was just warning signs, red flags everywhere. Like the listing agent, he was just demeaning. I was like, how do you treat someone that's actually coming with an offer for you this way? And then there was one of the tenants, which I was like scared of. Like, I was like, how can I go and collect rent from him? Because gang member, I think. And then there was just issues like every step of the way on the loan process, which I just kept not listening to my gut feeling, which was like, this is not for you. Like, you should not be investing here. And finally, we're about 2-3 days before we're going to close escrow, and the listing agent emails me saying that the garage exemption application, which is a thing here in Long Beach, had been denied, and that one of the units would have to be converted back into a garage because there had been some illegal conversions going on. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I'm definitely not going to move forward with this deal, which thank goodness I didn't, because I would have lost a lot of money. And then about a week after, another duplex come on the market, much better area. Listing agent was amazing. I learned a lot from him. The tenants were awesome. Everything just went smoothly. So I think from that, I just learned that, your gut feeling usually is right. And if it tells you something's wrong, listen to it, and and know that something better is coming for you.
That's a pretty good lesson. Yeah. Don't force it, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's actually another cool thing. So we're on a podcast called Number One Leading Ladies. So it's all women that are on the show, and I mean, whoever can listen can listen. But that's one thing as a lesson that I've heard more than once. As women, I just wrote a blog about it, and I think that we're more cued into how somebody else is feeling, based on their body language, based on whatever. We just pick it up. And so we're able to, I think, almost predict situations better because we're cued into that part of the human brain. That a lot of men. Here's my blog. A lot of men are taught to be tough and to not show emotion and not show anything. So they're hard to read. But also, as far as like shutting off your natural ability to read people and listen to that feeling, I think that men are taught to just like, not. Now, so anyway, so I've heard this several times where the lesson was, if you're listening to that gut feeling, you're going to have success. There was another woman I had on here who she's in her 60s, and she was like, when I was getting started in commercial, I would have these really cool ideas about converting something and getting, an exemption from the city to be able to do it, putting Starbucks back here where normally they don't do it. They do it on the street corner, et cetera, et cetera. And she goes, my mentor, obviously at the time, back in the 60s, was a man, and so when I told him this, he's like, it will not work. It's not legal. We can't do that, yada, yada. And so she goes, so basically I didn't do it. And then within a couple of years, I saw a man doing it, and he was very successful. And so she goes, I probably learned that lesson 3, maybe 4 times before I was like, forget it. Like, I'm just going to listen, and be an early adopter and make those changes ahead of time, and don't hold back. So I think that listening to your intuition is huge. As a woman, I struggle with it still. There are times where, my gut's going, no. And then what I do is then I fact check it until there's some scientific proof, that there's a hole in this problem, or there's what I'm saying?
Yep.
Whereas in reality, just listen, there's plenty of opportunities, plenty of people, but yeah, plenty. Well, that's a really good Really good lesson. Now, what would you say if you could pick one? Again, doesn't have to be business, doesn't have to be, you answer however you want. If you could pick one, like your biggest win, what would that be?
Um, I mean, this is also going to go in, but it's a little more personal. But I think for me, it was when I bought this house that I'm in right now, because we were coming from that small little duplex before we moved in here. And this is a 3-bedroom house. And so the kids have their own rooms. It kind of felt like home. I feel like we can stay here for a while and be happy. It's still a small house, but it's enough for us, and the schools are great. So
That's great. Yeah. And so you bought the duplex, obviously. So the duplex is still like a 1 to 4 family contract. You're still, so it's the same process, right? Whenever you're getting a duplex under contract and closing and all that, as it is like a single family, right? Okay.
yep.
Different. Well, kind of different, right? Because don't you have to kind of, so, I don't know. Explain it to me. I've never bought a duplex. I bought a single family and then like multiple units. So the single family, it was what it was, but it ended up turning into a rental. So it ended up turning into a commercial deal. How does that work when you have someone on the other side that's essentially like it's a business? How does that part work?
I don't know if I understand your question, but like when I bought my first duplex, like I have to qualify. Like you can't count the income from the other unit
Oh, okay.
because it's that first. You haven't established yourself as being a landlord, so you can't really count that money in. But then when you go to the next one, like I was able to count that income going into my single family home. So I was able to then qualify for more than I would have had I gone straight trying to buy a single family home.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I
And
learned.
so I was able to, had I gone single family home to then try to buy another single family home, I wouldn't have been able to develop that landlord history. And I would have had to force to have sold that single family home in order to get into my next one. So by doing it, going, duplex to fourplex, doing that first, you can keep that property and keep getting that cash flow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I just learned something today. Cool. I hope that everybody else that was listening or is listening, learned something too. Great. So now when it comes to going from where you've been in real estate and then getting involved in multifamily, what do you like about multifamily? What have been, some challenges that you see? Um, just talk to me about your experience in multifamily.
I mean, I've kind of focused on the underwriting portion of it, because I'm good with Excel, good with numbers. So I really enjoy it. I hear other people saying that they hate underwriting deals, but I actually love it. Like it's kind of like a hustle, trying to figure it out, like what makes sense, and making the returns the highest, and what price can you offer to get those returns. So yeah, I really enjoy it, and I think it's a faster way of investing than what I've been doing, which has been, one by one.
Yeah, I agree. That was one thing that my mentor said, that he was like, let's figure out a way that we can add another zero. So, whether it was, units or people or whatever. He started off doing um, single family, but actually, this was before the last crash. He was flipping like large homes in LA. And then they were doing like wrap notes or doing loans to individuals who didn't have a job. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong. So then moving to Texas, it's definitely a different market. So moving to smaller homes that were selling for less of a price, but he was like, I'm gonna have to do 10 of these to profit the way that I did on one of those. So how can I add another zero? And so him and his partner got involved in multifamily. That's awesome. That is a skill set that is really unique. And, everybody inside our company is a female, and so it's also really unique to find a female that's as smart as you are and as good as you are. Like, you literally you get them done so fast, that's the difference between you and I. Like, I am really good with like being like loud and out there and all this other stuff, and I can't underwrite. But the thing is it takes me like 4 hours, to do one, because I can't sit still for very long. I'll do it for 2 hours, be efficient, and then after that point, I'm kind of like, the dog, someone's calling me, whatever. I just can't sit still. So that's awesome that you're able to do that. And that's the cool thing about being a team. You know what I mean? Is that we all have different skill sets. We all have different, different ways to do things, but come together. So that's been awesome. Now, I guess so we're about 20 minutes early. No, I'm just kidding. We're about 15 minutes early. So I kind of want to ask a little bit about like your story about like your educational background. So kind of, obviously we know where you went to school, but I have a degree in molecular and experimental nutrition. So it's basically like, actually it started off biology and then went into other sciences. So it's interesting that I wanted to be a dentist, but ended up, having enough knowledge to be able to figure out how to, run spreadsheets and stuff. I just don't love it. I love things that are on the macro level, Yeah. So I didn't get the same degree that you did. What kind of, how did your degree go? How, what did you learn?
I mean, you don't really use much, right? That you learn in school. That's kind of how I kind of felt like it's, if I could go back, I would go and get a degree in construction, or, I would be a contractor or something like that, because I feel like that would have been a more useful skill in what I like to do. But like, yeah, it's definitely, for me, the biggest thing was kind of like, how do you look at data, and how do you draw conclusions from that? So I did a lot of like stats classes and stuff like that.
Yeah. What was probably your favorite class in school or in college?
I mean, it probably was economics, because it all makes sense to me. All those little, the macro and the micro, and I mean, microeconomics was my favorite.
Really? Well, can you teach us something about microeconomics? Because obviously that's not my degree area, or I only know what I know about apartments. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, what would make someone go to an apartment? Like, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really change that much.
Yeah. Well, you can basically look at data and you can see what would be the best price to maximize your profits. So I think that was, I love doing those kind of analysis, and it's definitely math. Yeah.
So you like technology, right?
Yes.
How do you feel, or what do you know about blockchain technology?
I don't know much about it.
Yeah, well, I'm starting to learn it right now. So I don't know much about it either, but just trying to kind of figure out a way now that everything has changed, because of coronavirus. It's kind of forcing us as a society to change. Let's think about why this happened. Let's not continue to make this happen again, or it could really result in like a lot of distress and danger and etc. So for me to wrap my mind around something new and different and be an early adopter of something. Blockchain, people always call it like cryptocurrency. And while I'm learning that crypto is like a form of something that the technology can be used for, which is like coins, money, the technology itself can be used for like all these really annoying processes that we do every day, like, title companies and closings and, buying and selling cars, legal contracts, anything that HIPAA data for, healthcare workers, or not workers, but healthcare standards for patients, things like that. It's all secure data. And there's so many things as we're transitioning to online and smaller and faster and more efficient. It is also bringing on another world of people that can hack and people that can get into things. And so, that's the fear, right? But I'm learning that this technology is like the way to stop that. It's got a unique signature for every type of step of the deal cycle that you're in. And you're able to track where it's coming from, where it's going, and then therefore able to see who's all involved in what's happening, and anyone can. So it's like forcing us to be more honest, which I love that. So I just don't know anything about it, and I wanted to see if you had done any. I've only read like a little, like 50-page book by IBM. That's it. And
that's good.
Yeah. I've had a bunch of people. It's weird on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's crazy right now. Normally I get like hardly any responses, and right now I'm like everybody's on it. I've had like check this.
Because they're looking for a job.
What?
Is it because they're looking for a job? They're on LinkedIn.
No. Because like we're really limited to the ability to network right now, right? I'm used to going out into Dallas, and there's so many like real estate and multifamily events, like probably like 5-6 days a week, and I was going to like 3 or 4 a week and being exhausted, but you're meeting people are getting interested in what you do, building like trust and rapport. So it's important, but we can't do that right now. So what's your other option? LinkedIn is like your source of, I'm on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn and like freaking everything out there. And LinkedIn is the one place where people are actually overly professional, if you ask me, like, with their profile pictures and their like mini resumes and all this stuff on the website. And actually, so I'm looking to kind of be a disruptor on there and do videos. Are you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
I clicked out of the screen. I don't know where it went. Hopefully it's still recording.
Yep, I still see you.
Okay, good. Oops, my bad. So anyway, just trying to figure out like how we can still connect and help each other. So that's been really great. And I've had some interesting conversations, like I was going to say, about cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. I haven't put it as a profile status out there. I haven't, anything on LinkedIn, but I've had a few like cryptocurrency brokers like reach out to me, or like cryptocurrency like home loans. Like I'm like, what? So I'm trying to kind of like learn a little bit, every week, just a couple of hours, and figure out what's actually out there. Apparently, this technology's been around for a while, and in Chicago, for example, the city is already using the technology. Like they've verified that it's safe, secure, legal. Again, it's blockchain technology, not cryptocurrency, but I mean, anything that I can do to systematize something and to get rid of like friction between like having so many intermediaries, and then also having to pay so many people to get in the way of doing a sale. Like for example, you've got the title insurance, the title company, the broker, the other broker, the I can't even think of all of it, but just all the things. And really what it is you have a seller and you have a buyer, and you guys want to like trade. So, and then there's going to be an exchange of money. And so in the process, supposedly using blockchain, you're able to, all the participants in that transaction, there's like a set of trigger points, if you will, that these things need to be satisfied or met before the transaction will move to the next stage. So it's automated, or AI, where it's basically like every time we do this type of transaction, we still need to have those milestones met, and then the computers will automatically move it to the next step. So instead of having to call people and text people and be on email and all this other stuff, it monitors itself. And then the end users that are trying to do the transaction, if the document's needed over here or this is needed over here, the system tells them, we need it. So anyway, just thought that's a cool concept and was curious about it. So that's kind of, I want to be an early adopter. It's the hardest part right now. I was already ready to do it 2 weeks ago, to tell you the truth. The hard part right now is, well, I'm trying to balance all this other stuff all day, but there's very few like attorneys, very few individuals who already do this on a regular basis, so they know what they're doing, right? To figure out the feasibility, because the largest challenge is the government right now, the way that they tax that income. So right now they tax say if it's money, say it's Bitcoin, shares of something is in a physical asset. versus in your bank account, they tax that amount the same way right now. Instead of right now with us in our USD, or not USD, but our currency, it's taxed differently when it's put into an asset versus when it's just liquid sitting in your bank account or active income, you know? So until the government kind of figures out a way to like tax those things differently, that could provide just a really big headache for audits and all kinds of crazy stuff, them trying to like, you know, prove that you're not doing witchcraft.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but that'll
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well, we're right at about that stopping point, where what I'd like to do is to kind of ask you one more question, and then kind of ask or let our viewers or listeners and viewers know how they can get a hold of you if they have any questions. So last question is going to be, what would you say is the number one piece of advice for somebody who wants to learn how to do underwriting or thinks that they want to?
I mean, I would say practice, 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 because it's like the first times you're doing it, you won't be really good. You won't be good at it. But it gets to that point where it's like you can actually kind of just by looking at it, you see, okay, something's wrong here with this T12 or this rent roll. It makes no sense. Like it becomes second nature to you. And then yeah, I'd say definitely just practice.
Practice. Sorry, one more. So when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to practicing, one of the things I remember when I do a second round of underwriting or something that is so annoying to me, because again, I'm about efficiency. It's another friction point, right? Is the sometimes when you find a really good deal, like I've found in the past, the deal comes with some challenges of like someone giving you a handwritten rent roll or
Mm-hmm.
you know, whatever, or they're only having PDF documents instead of something that you can copy and paste the information into a spreadsheet. And so I'm like, I am not entering all this. No way. You know what I mean? So is there a better solution for that, or a better way to do that?
No, I mean, I have gotten those handwritten rent rolls, and in order to like kind of figure out what the average rents are, like I'm doing it manually with the calculator, right? Because there's no, I don't know of anything where you can transfer handwritten notes into like Excel. I mean, might exist, but I don't know about it, because you know everyone has their different hand styles, right? Written. I know there's tools for PDFs to Excel where you can transfer it back. But yeah, sometimes, but also if you find those, like I think you should get more excited, because that means that most buyers are not going to take the time to go and hand calculate all these numbers. So I think it's just an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, And then another thing too, I don't know if you've ever used a virtual assistant or an intern or anything like that, who wants to kind of learn, you know, how to underwrite or learn how to do that. But that might be another way to do it. You know, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we'll have to keep
Yeah.
us all updated if there is a technology that comes out or something where we can just, you know, take the handwritten stuff and put it into a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that would be, yeah, maybe we should invent it if it doesn't exist.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, we're smart enough to figure it out, I think. To everyone that's listening on our podcast, Number One Leading Ladies, we really appreciate you tuning in today, and hopefully you learned something as I did. Carolina, thank you so much for being on the call today and for sharing with us a little bit about your story. And if anyone has any questions or wants to kind of get involved, how would you prefer that our listeners contact you?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, and it's Carolina Larson Demario, or by email, which is Carolina at sviaventures.com.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you again next week on Number One Leading Ladies.
Mm-hmm.